Luka Doncic got a first-hand look at his new team Tuesday night at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood, and he was impressed. Doncic was on the Lakers bench in street clothes for the Lakers' 122-97 beatdown of the Clippers. The Lakers scored 45 points in the first quarter, their highest total in a quarter this season, and led by as much as 31. LeBron, who sat next to Doncic whenever he went to the bench, had 26 points, 8 rebounds, and 9 assists. The Lakers are 8-2 in their last 10 games. They have won 3 straight and are 10 games over 500 for the first time this season. The Lakers are having an important practice Wednesday morning. Doncic will participate in a 5-on-5 scrimmage, his first full contact workout since suffering a calf muscle strain on Christmas Day. Depending on how Doncic feels after the scrimmage, there's a good chance he could make his Lakers debut in Saturday's home game against Indiana. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
They can do anything they want to us. We might not be back. I might be in jail. I might be anywhere. But when I leave, you can remember I said with the last words on my lips, I am a revolutionary.
On Saturday, February 22nd, you are invited to A Night with the Panthers, a special fundraiser dedicated to supporting Black Panther veterans who now require assistance with essential needs such as medicine, food, and housing. These Black Panther veterans championed human rights, fed the hungry, educated the community, and stood as powerful symbols of resistance and resilience. Despite their incredible sacrifices, loving and serving the people did not come with retirement plans or financial security. So, now it's our time to honor their legacy and ensure that they are cared for with the dignity they deserve. You can help by attending and supporting A Night with the Panthers, Saturday, February 22nd, 6:30 p.m. to 10 p.m. at the Project 43 Team Post Center, 6841 Crenshaw Boulevard, Los Angeles. For more information, contact Black Panther Party Breakfast at gmail.com or call 707-554-2784. That's Black Panther Party Breakfast at gmail.com or call 707-554-2784. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Live from historic Leimert Park in Los Angeles, California, I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm so glad to see you and me back in stride again. Before we get started with today's show, let me invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley and get updates on X, that's formerly Twitter, at Tavis Smiley. By the way, should you miss any part of today's program or want to catch up on previous shows, you can always visit thetavismiley.com. That's thetavismiley.com, or wherever you get your podcast, and listen to the Tavis Smiley podcast version of this live program at your leisure. Another great show on tap for you today. In our second hour, 2 conversations up first. Trayvon Martin should be celebrating his 30th birthday today. Trayvon Benjamin Martin was born on this day, February 5th, 1995, in Miami, Florida. He was murdered by George Zimmerman on February 26th, 2012, in Sanford, Florida, at the age of 17. We will talk to Trayvon's mother, Sabrina Fulton on the top side of hour 2 on what would have been his 30th birthday. On the B side of hour 2.
Outstanding. Girl, you knock me up. Exciting. You make me wanna shout.
It's the pride of Tulsa, Oklahoma, the Gap Band. You know what that GAP stands for, right? Greenwood, Archer, and Pine. Today, a conversation with the first black mayor in Tulsa, Oklahoma's 127-year history, Mayor Monroe Nichols, joins us today on the backside of hour 2. I think a fitting conversation for Black History Month. You think about Tulsa and the Tulsa massacre and all the history that we know that's rooted in that particular city. And 127 years later, they finally have an African-American mayor of the city. Again, we'll talk to Mayor Monroe Nichols on the backside of hour 2. In our third hour today.
Has anybody in this audience ever been in a toxic relationship? Make some noise. Let me see them hands. Make some noise if you've been in a toxic relationship and you realize, nigga, you the toxic one in the relationship. It's you, nigga. You need a therapist, nigga. You get a therapist. You get a therapist. Everybody gets a therapist. I'm bro for Winfrey in this mother. I didn't know I was a toxic mother. I didn't know I was a toxic. I thought I was a real nigga. I didn't know I was a toxic nigga. I just thought that was a crazy bitch. Because I don't have a lot of mental health words. Women today, they got all the motherfucking mental health words. They get it off of socialgram and TikTok. She got all the words. They can't wait to use all their words. As soon as you say something, excuse me, respect my boundaries. If you don't get out of my face, don't gaslight me. Respect my boundaries. I need time to heal. You're manipulative. I need time to heal. Don't gaslight me. You're gaslighting me. You're a narcissist. You're a narcissist. This bitch was like, you're a narcissist. I said, I'm a Sagittarius, sis. That's the sis I know, bitch. Sagittarius. Half horse, half man, December 6th.
We will get our laugh on today in our third and final hour when comedian Donnell Rawlings joins us live in studio to talk about his latest comedy tour and his new black ash candle just in time for Valentine's Day. Who knew? Donnell is doing candles now. So Donnell Rawlings, again, joins us live today in our third and final hour. All that said, in this first hour, we will commence today's show talking politics with attorney turned national press secretary for the Bernie Sanders presidential campaign in 2020, turned host of the very popular Bad Faith podcast, Brianna Joy Gray. Let me just set this up right quick, and I'll let Brianna Joy Gray loose for the rest of this hour. So you saw the news, right? Trump had a day yesterday. We were on the air yesterday when Bibi Netanyahu was making his way to the White House. And in case you haven't heard, here's what happened yesterday at the White House when Bibi arrived, first head of state to come see Donald Trump as president, 2.0. So Trump has proposed that the U.S. seize control of Gaza and relocate Palestinians to other countries. He said he would turn the territory into the Riviera of the Middle East. The Riviera of the Middle East. That's his plan. He did not say, of course, how the U.S. would convince, force, or otherwise get these 2 million Gazans to leave. He said, and I quote, "I don't think they're going to tell me no," close quote. Palestinian leaders and Saudi Arabia, a key U.S. ally in the Middle East, have rejected the idea, did so immediately. Egypt and Jordan, the two countries that Trump said could receive Palestinians, recently denounced a similar suggestion. For his part, Bibi Netanyahu, while at the White House yesterday, said of Trump's proposal, and I quote, "This is the kind of thinking that will reshape the Middle East and bring peace." That's Bibi. This is the kind of thinking that will reshape the Middle East and bring peace. If that wasn't enough, then Trump signed an executive order calling for a review of U.S. funding and involvement in the UN, the United Nations. He withdrew the U.S. from the UN Human Rights Council, and stopped funding for UNRWA, the agency that aids Palestinians. He is continuing, obviously, his trend toward imperialism in Trump 2.0. That was just yesterday. And that's just one issue. I haven't gotten to the other issues that jumped off yesterday, but just on the issue of the Middle East, Trump did all of that, said all of that yesterday. When we come forward, I will cut Brianna Joy Gray loose for the rest of this hour. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
From California to the Carolinas, everybody's listening to Tavis. More when we come forward.
This is an ad by BetterHelp Online Therapy. When it comes to relationships, we often hear about the red flags we should avoid, but it's just as important to focus on the green flags. Think about how you want a relationship to feel, one where your boundaries are respected and you're encouraged to be your best self. If you're not sure what that looks like, therapy can help you identify those qualities so you can embody the green flag energy yourself and find it in others. Because whether you're dating, married, or building a friendship, it's time to form relationships that love you back. BetterHelp connects you to a diverse network of over 30,000 therapists worldwide with expertise in a wide range of issues, from depression and anxiety to work and relationships. It's 100% online and sign-up only takes a few minutes. Find your green flag energy with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/ABC Radio today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/ABC Radio.
KBLA Talk 1580 stands with you neighbor to neighbor, bringing you resources and what you need to know. For information on fire recovery resources, recovery hubs, and available services, call 211 for the City of Los Angeles and 311 countywide. Aid distribution locations, repopulation updates, and safety rules are constantly changing. Visit the LA City and LA County websites for the latest. If you'd like to sign up for the county's free debris removal, fill out a right of entry form, or get a list of disaster recovery centers that are still active, please visit recovery.lacounty.gov or call the debris hotline at 844-347-3332. If you're vulnerable to mudslides with rain in the forecast, free sandbags are being offered. Go to lacounty.pw/sandbags to find out where to get them. Businesses who have lost their facilities due to the fires can use a regional online source to get free or discounted locations. Whether you're interested in donating or finding space, you can visit the Business to Business Space Share portal at spaceshare.lacounty.gov. Additional LA County small business support and programs can be found at opportunity.lacounty.gov. Praying, advocating, and standing with you. KBLA Talk 1580.
Life blooms in beautiful ways. The Afia Center invites you to celebrate At the End with Red Gala, honoring the strength and resilience of Black women living with HIV. Join us for an evening of empowerment as we launch the Barbara Cambridge Scholarship and kick off Herstory Month with our theme, Life in Full Bloom. Your support helps create vital HIV programming and builds a future where every voice is heard and every story matters. The End with Red Gala, because every flower deserves to bloom. To learn more and to donate, visit theafiacenter.org.
More honesty than you can handle. More empowerment than you can imagine. You're tuned in to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and host of the Bad Faith Podcast, Brianna Joy Gray, who I'm honored to have back on this program. Brianna, how are you today?
I'm doing all right. Circumstances permitting, it's a bleak news environment and a bleak time here in this country and around the world.
Yeah, I used the word grim yesterday. Here you count the word bleak. I'll take either one. Grim, bleak. Pick your term. All right, you heard me set this up. Not that you needed it, but I wanted the audience to understand exactly what went down in the White House yesterday. At least top line it for the audience. So, talk to me.
Yeah. So. I think you set that up really beautifully. I would only add that it's worth remembering that this conflict started in 2023 on October 7th, that the initial population of Gaza was 2.3 million people, and now Donald Trump repeatedly has been making reference to 1.7, 1.8 million that need to be removed. They have all this language that is trying to obscure the reality that this is ethnic cleansing, but removed, relocated elsewhere, which means that there is an acknowledgement from the White House that the death toll is not this 40-odd thousand number it's been frozen at for well over a year, and it's not this newly revised 61,000 number that just came out a few days ago, that it's closer to 500,000 or 600,000 Palestinians that have been killed since October 7th. And why do I feel like that's important to bring up? It's important to bring up because what we're seeing now from Donald Trump is simply the final stages of a 14-month-long course of genocide and ethnic cleansing that happened under the Joe Biden administration. And I would argue, I would not just argue, I would say that there's proof that his failure to recognize a public outrage over the fact that he was enabling that genocide, a genocide that could not have happened without American bombs, by the express admission of the Israeli government, could not have happened without American diplomatic cover and direct funding, is precisely why Joe Biden lost the election and why Donald Trump is in a position to be pursuing all of the overreaches he's been pursuing for the last couple of weeks. And it's worth noting that my proof for that is a poll that was done that looked at voters who voted for Joe Biden in 2020, but that declined to vote for him in 2024. The largest percentage of those voters listed Gaza as the reason that they did not vote for him in 2024. 29%, the biggest reason articulated by those voters was Gaza, with 29% of the vote. And the question looming large is whether or not what is happening right now with Donald Trump is a departure from the Biden policy, as some have argued. I would argue very much that it's not. That it's a continuation of this policy. And the public's perception that there would be no change between Harris, Biden, and Trump is precisely why Kamala Harris lost.
Mm. So that's a mouthful, and there's a lot there, and I want to just spend some time now sort of unpacking what you just laid out. Let me just start with these questions. First, it's not just that we could argue that what Donald Trump is doing is a continuation of the Biden policy. Let's just take it a step further. I could argue, if I had the time with you, I don't need to because I know you'll take my point. I got a bright audience anyway, so they'll get it as well. It's not just that Trump is continuing the Biden policy. One could argue that Joe Biden empowered Donald Trump to do this. I mean, if you open the door and you continue with a policy that is what it was, and you ignore the voices of others suggesting there is another way, there is a better way, there is an alternative, if you continue down that path to the moment that you leave the White House, if you continue the arms shipments, et cetera, then that's not just open the door for Donald Trump to continue. In some ways, I could argue, again, if I had the time, that Joe Biden's policy, Joe Biden empowered Donald Trump to go as far as he went yesterday. Would you disagree with that argument?
I wouldn't disagree at all. In fact, if you look at what Donald Trump actually said yesterday, he said, if you look at Gaza, it's a demolition site. There's hardly a building left. It's all death in Gaza. We can get people to resettle into nice homes and not be shot. So his explicit rationale for needing to, quote unquote, relocate Gazans to a different country, in other words, to ethnically cleanse them, is the destruction that only happened because of Joe Biden over the last 14 months.
Mm-hmm.
He is now able to say, oh, yes, we have to put Palestinians in homes because there's no homes left, completely sidestepping the reality that it was American bombs and American diplomatic cover that enabled the complete and total demolition of Gaza.
Mm. And what did you make of Bibi's comment that this is the kind of thinking that can reimagine the Middle East and bring peace? What did you make of Bibi's words?
The agenda of the State of Israel has never been obscure. And that's part of what's so frustrating about this. I mean, for, again, well over a year, anyone who has any familiarity with the history of the conflict in this region, of the occupation in this region, has known that the end goal has been the elimination of Palestinians. And if that sounds overly hard, I mean, the explicit admissions from heads of state and other kinds of officials can be cited ad nauseum, but also just look at the core fundamental principle of Zionism. If the goal is to not just have a pluralistic democracy like we have in the United States of America, in which, despite all the failures of our founding fathers, which we as not Black Americans know too well, articulated an Enlightenment ideal of every man being equal under the law, despite, regardless of religion and all of those kinds of things that they were fleeing persecution from in Europe. Israel is founded differently as a religious state, as an ethno-religious state, right? Because Judaism is considered both an ethnicity and religion. What does that mean if you are founding a country among a population of millions and millions of people who do not share that ethnic and religious identity? To have a majority, it means to preclude a democracy, or to ethnically cleanse, genocide, and murder and get rid of the population that outnumbers you, that would preclude you from having an open democracy, but because of course they would outnumber you. So over the last 70-odd years, what you have had is various campaigns to raise the lawn, which is the terminology used for periodically controlling the population of Gaza by having murder sprees, for a lack of a better word. I'm not really in the mood to sugarcoat things today. By tightly controlling the caloric intake of Gaza to make sure that they're getting the bare minimum per person that's needed for sustenance to survive. That is a longstanding policy of Gaza, and so of Israel rather. And so for us to be talking about this now in the Trump context with so many people, by the way, in this moment, who were not interested in having this conversation when it was Biden litigating this war, is deeply, deeply frustrating. And I want to bring up this point really importantly. Mm-hmm. This ethnic cleansing is not a new phenomenon. We knew this was happening for all the historical reasons, but also specifically days after October 7th of 2023, there was a leaked document from Israel's intelligence ministry that proposed this ethnic cleansing plan, getting Palestinians to go into neighboring countries, namely Egypt. And this was confirmed as a leaked document from Israel's intelligence ministry days afterward. And when people implored Joe Biden not to facilitate this plan, that this was obviously the end goal of Israel, and that his Bear Hug Bibi strategy was a direct facilitation of genocide and ethnic cleansing, we were told that that was an anti-Semitic claim, that that was an irresponsible claim, that we were being overblown and reactionary and over the top. And now it has taken the death of 500,000 plus potentially Palestinians for some people to come around, and the fact of Donald Trump being in the White House for people to recognize this fundamental truth. And the consequences are going to be far-reaching, far beyond Palestine because of what Trump is obviously trying to do to other parts of our government.
I've got many more questions, but I see, not surprised to hear that this conversation has blown up our social media. I see responses everywhere. Let me just read a couple of them. One listener says that Breonna Joy Gray loses credibility when she fails to acknowledge the failings of Palestinian leadership. Arafat walked away from the table from a two-state solution. So what, Breonna?
That's fundamentally not true. That is the propaganda that our State Department has been spreading for years. A genuine two-state solution was never offered to the Palestinian people and continues not to be offered. The reason why there is a lack of confidence, frankly, in the two-state solution is precisely because there has been this bait and switch constantly over the years that has led Palestinians to get to a point where they realize that the only kind of resistance that's going to be heard or seen is the kind of violent revolution that we see, the kind of violent uprising that we see on October 7th. That was preceded immediately by moves toward normalization of other Middle Eastern states, namely Saudi Arabia and the region. And it was perceived as the death knell, the final blow to any possibility of there being an independent Palestinian state. When you look at the land encroachment, illegal under international law land encroachment of Israel into both the West Bank and Gaza over the last 75 years, it belies, obviously, the credibility of any statement that suggests that Israel, again, with its repeated commitment to getting rid of Palestine, to expanding through Judea and Samaria, their claims to have a religious right to the entire region, that they were ever going to allow Palestine to exist as an independent country. Point blank, period. And it's completely false.
Yep. I guess the other question is whether or not we should be surprised, no matter where one comes down on what Donald Trump said or did yesterday, whether or not any of this should surprise us. If you recall the comment he made before being inaugurated, that if those hostages were not released by Gaza before he took over, all hell was going to break loose. That's a quote from Donald Trump. So yesterday, all hell broke loose. So we shouldn't be surprised by how far he went yesterday, should we?
No, I mean, absolutely not. I mean, what's so frustrating, I think, as someone who is a critic from the left, is that so often our criticisms are characterized by people who are, I think, have more fidelity to the Democratic Party than to democratic ideals and democratic outcomes, as geared toward hurting the Democratic Party, as opposed to encouraging it to improving to a point where it could actually exist as a genuine resistance party to the Republican Party. What we're seeing right now is the consequence of the Democratic Party ignoring its left base and pandering to the right and thinking it could win an election by bringing Bibi Netanyahu close to it, by bringing Liz Cheney close to it, by believing it could ignore the Arab and Muslim voters all around the country in places like not just Dearborn and Michigan, but also North Carolina and Pennsylvania, by ignoring working class voters in states like Pennsylvania that live under a federal minimum wage and are told that that is an issue that the Democratic Party ostensibly fights for when it objectively has not, when we have not had a minimum wage raise since 2009. Ignoring these core-based constituencies, we're sitting here on what would have been Trayvon Martin's 30th birthday. We had the largest protest movement in American history during 2020, during Biden's election year, that resulted in exactly 0 pieces of legislation that are attendant to the criminal justice issues that persist in this country. And we're told that somehow it's the left that's begging the Democratic Party to support the overwhelmingly populist agenda of its own base. Medicare for all, 88% of Democrats, 60% of independents, and 49% of Republicans support these kinds of policies. And we're told that the left is the one that's being irresponsible by saying, hey, you should move in the direction of what is popular instead of in the direction of what's a neocon like Liz Cheney, who is rejected from the Republican Party that is increasingly populist, at least on these international foreign policy issues, and run to this increasingly small policy platform that only basically people work at the American Enterprise Institute actually care about in Washington, D.C. No, we are begging the Democratic Party to live up to its ideals so that it can have a chance in HE-double hockey sticks of actually confronting the evil that is the Republican Party and that is Donald Trump. And when they fail, it is not because of the left, it is because the left has been ignored.
Yeah. I've got one or two more questions about what happened in the White House yesterday when Bibi Netanyahu showed up from Israel. One or two more questions about that when we come forward. There is breaking news at this hour. Brianna Joy Gray, and I'll get to this as well. Trump's birthright citizenship order is blocked indefinitely. This nationwide injunction just happened moments ago, issued by a federal judge in Maryland, is more permanent than the 14-day temporary restraining order issued last month by a federal judge in Seattle. So for the moment, the birthright citizenship issue that Donald Trump is advancing. He said a couple of days ago he believes he does have 5 votes on the U.S. Supreme Court to overturn it. It was only intended for the children of slaves, not for anybody else. And we run amok on this front. And so he wants to overturn the traditional standard, do away, I should say, with the traditional standard of birthright citizenship for those born in this country. But a federal judge now has issued a nationwide injunction that is far more permanent than the 14-day restraining order we talked about days ago. More about that and some other issues when we come forward on Tavis, Smiley with Brianna Joy Gray.
This is getting good.
Yeah, man.
Tavis Smiley continues when we come forward.
Robinhood Gold members can now enjoy the VIP treatment, receiving a 3% IRA match on annual retirement contributions. With Robinhood Gold, the perks of the high net worth are now available for any net worth. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. To receive a 3% boost on annual IRA contributions, sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold $5 a month for 1 year from first match. Must keep funds in IRA for 5 years. Go to Robinhood.com/boost. Robinhood Financial LLC member SIPC. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 things you should know with BIN News. The Army set a December recruiting record with nearly 350 sign-ups daily, the highest in 15 years. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth credited the surge to youth wanting to serve under President Trump's America First leadership. USPS has suspended package acceptance from China and Hong Kong until further notice, following recent tariffs between the U.S. and China. Letters and flat envelopes are still accepted. A new survey from Emory University's Rollins School of Public Health and Gallup found that affordable health care is Americans' top health priority, with most believing the federal government is better suited to address health care issues than state governments. And Waffle House has added a temporary 50-cent surcharge per egg due to an egg shortage caused by bird flu. They plan to adjust to remove the surcharge once egg prices normalize. The cost of eggs has nearly doubled since last year. I'm Bree Wood on the Black Information Network, your home for Black News First.
If you were self-employed or a 1099 contractor and missed work because you had COVID or cared for an immediate family member with COVID in 2021, you may qualify for up to $32,000 for the Sick and Family Leave Credit. Visit taxcreditnow.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Luka Doncic got a first-hand look at his new team Tuesday night at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood, and he was impressed. Doncic was on the Lakers bench in street clothes for the Lakers' 122-97 beatdown of the Clippers. The Lakers scored 45 points in the first quarter, their highest total in a quarter this season, and led by as much as 31. LeBron, who sat next to Doncic whenever he went to the bench, had 26 points, 8 rebounds, and 9 assists. The Lakers are 8-2 in their last 10 games. They have won 3 straight and are 10 games over 500 for the first time this season. The Lakers are having an important practice Wednesday morning. Doncic will participate in a 5-on-5 scrimmage, his first full contact workout since suffering a calf muscle strain on Christmas Day. Depending on how Doncic feels after the scrimmage, there's a good chance he could make his Lakers debut in Saturday's home game against Indiana. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
If you were self-employed or a 1099 contractor and missed work because you had COVID or cared for an immediate family member with COVID in 2021, you may qualify for up to $32,000 for the Sick and Family Leave Credit. Visit taxcreditnow.com.
Are you a recent college graduate with a dream of getting a high-paying job in sales? A job where you can grow a lucrative career in multi-platform audio, digital, podcast, social media, and local events, along with world-class training and career growth opportunities. KBLA Talk 1580, located in historic Leimert Park, is currently hiring entry-level account executives for outside sales. Join a team featuring radio hosts Tavis Smiley, Dr. Cornell West, Jesse Jackson Jr., D.L. Hughley, Dr. Nee Cordelai Corte, Zoe Williams, and our very own Dominique DePrima. For more information on attending our upcoming career fair, contact SMB at KBLA1580.com today.
Work, 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 work. I have a dream today.
From the inventors who transformed our world to the activists who changed our nation, their stories shaped America. This February, KBLA Talk 1580 celebrates Black History Month with powerful conversations, untold stories, and voices that need to be heard. Join us all month long for special programming that honors the past while inspiring our future. Black History Month on KBLA Talk 1580. Our history, our voices, our time.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it
down and get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avastin-captid Pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
Helping to make you the most knowledgeable person in your circle of friends. This is Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and the host of the Bad Faith Podcast, Brianna Joy Gray. Delighted to have her on this hour. We all know that Donald Trump suffers from delusion, but yesterday was really fascinating for me, and I want to just take Brianna Joy's temperature on this right quick before I push forward. So you heard me say earlier, quoting Donald Trump, I don't think they're going to tell me no. That's what he said yesterday. They're not going to tell me no when it comes to my suggestion that they should leave Gaza. And pretty immediately, everybody in the region told him no. They're not going to tell me no, says Donald Trump. And then everybody told him no. Palestinian leaders, Saudi Arabia, a key U.S. ally, of course, in the Middle East, Egypt, Jordan, everybody told him no pretty immediately. And so I'm not surprised by the delusion part, Brianna Joy Gray. My question is, practically speaking, what does it mean that Donald Trump has suggested he wants to do X, but everybody has told him no to his idea?
So there's a couple of sort of background facts to keep in mind. One is that America has always used money and military power to exert influence over this region, as it does the entire world, but specifically this region. Israel is the number one recipient of U.S. aid, but it's followed by Egypt. And the complicity, there's a delicate balance, basically, that is held by all of the Arab states in the region, where because of U.S. influence, because the leadership in these countries is often the direct result of kind of U.S. tinkering, there is a gap between what the leaders of these countries are willing to do to basically support the American agenda, counterbalanced by what their populations actually want. And so, on the whole, America tends to get its way in the region, obviously the 76-year occupation of Palestine being the key example. But there are limits, right, to how far they can push, because even in these countries that are deep allies of the United States of America, who have receive enormous amount of American aid, they are still subject to uprisings, Arab Spring style uprisings and the like. So what you're seeing right now is Donald Trump saying what American presidents say, which is that they have a certain amount of sway and are able to exert their will. But historically, actually coming out full-throatedly against Palestinians seems to be a red line that a lot of these countries won't cross, even a country like Saudi Arabia, right,
Mm-hmm.
which backed up off after October 7th.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly the response from the people of Palestine has been absolutely not, we're not going anywhere, knowing, again, for the better part of 100 years that the agenda has been to get them off of the land. Palestinians are incredibly resilient. And the imagery you saw after Trump's ceasefire, right after he was inaugurated, of hundreds of thousands of people coming back north from the south of Gaza to return to their homes and start cleaning up and trying to put their lives back together amid rubble, was very destabilizing to Israelis. They were furious about it all over social media because they understand that's reflective of what Palestinians have had to do, to dig in and never concede to these efforts to get them to go to the Sinai, to go to these refugee camps in Egypt, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So no, I think that Trump is delusional if he thinks that Palestinians are actually going to give up at this juncture after having endured so much. And the question is whether or not that will bring on another round of bombing, killing, and violence from Israel, when the reality is that until they exterminate the 2 million people that live there, or now 1.7 million people that live there, that they will have to continue to contend with the resistance of this population.
Well, as you heard him say yesterday, he wants to turn the territory into the Riviera of the Middle East, just like Donald Trump, Mr. Developer, pushing people out, with the delusions of grandeur that the territory can become the Riviera of the Middle East. I'll leave that right there. Brianna, a moment ago, was saying, echoing what I've said ad infinitum, ad nauseum on this program of late, the Democrats need to find a spine. You heard her commentary about that a moment ago. Let me connect her commentary about that to this comment or these comments from Steve Bannon, who was talking to PBS. Play it, Mouse.
The opposition party is the media. And the media can only, because they're dumb and they're lazy, they can only focus on one thing at a time. All we have to do is flood the zone. Every day we hit them with 3 things. They'll bite on one and we'll get all of our stuff done. Bang, bang, bang. These guys will never be able to recover. But we got to start with muzzle velocity. So it's got to start, it's got to hammer.
What was the word?
Muzzle velocity.
Muzzle velocity. Now, what I love about that clip is that the good white folk, the Republicans in this instance, they just go on PBS and tell you their strategy. It's not even like you got to try to figure this out. This is Bannon on PBS telling you what we getting ready to do. And that's exactly what they, in fact, are doing. And it's knocked everybody, namely the Democrats, off their square. Take it away, Brianna Joy Gray.
Oh, yeah. So I'm so glad you brought up the Supreme Court earlier and Donald Trump's efforts to push various executive orders, including this birthright executive order, through. This is an important point. I just recently talked to David Sirota of the American Prospect on my own podcast, Bad Faith, about this. I've heard many commentators make the same point with a lot more legal experience than I do. But the hopefulness is that these executive orders get challenged in court because they want to create legal precedent. They don't just want their executive orders to be enacted. They want there to be legal precedent for all of these things. And because Republicans have done such an effective job at replacing federal judges and obviously the Supreme Court justices with ideologically sympathetic individuals, they have a really strong chance of succeeding and making their imperatives the law of the land. So, I wouldn't get, frankly, too excited about various injunctions that happen on the way. What's going to matter is whether the Supreme Court actually upholds some of these things. I've also heard, though, specifically with the birthright issue, that might be one that is being pushed specifically so that the Supreme Court can say, okay, we're going to overturn that one. That's an incredible overreach, so that it looks like a more credible institution as it takes on some of the other things that the Trump administration is trying to do, get rid of the Department of Education and what have you. But the important thing to note here is when Biden came in with both the House and the Senate, there was a push for Supreme Court reform. There was an acknowledgement that because of RBG's failure to step down under the Obama administration and Trump's ability to pack the court the way that he did, that if Democrats were serious about protecting the rights of historically marginalized groups, the right to choose, all of these kinds of things in America, that it needed to entertain some of the strategies that had been used by Democrats past when the courts got out of step with the desires of the elected parts of our government, notably in FDR's era where he threatened to pack the courts in order to get them to stop blocking all of his legislation, the New Deal legislation that we now consider the bedrock of our social safety net. Now, Joe Biden had a Supreme Court commission that got very little attention and nobody really cared about. He took none of the advice from the academics, the progressives that basically warned about this sort of thing, and that there is no kind of enforcement mechanism from the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court can't do anything without the power of the state, and that there should be a more muscular approach to ensuring that the judiciary is more in line with the more democratic side of our government. And now we're living with the consequences, again, of Republicans being so much more muscular in their approach and so much more aggressive in their desire to promote their own ideology than the Democrats. And now what are we left with? We're left with a bunch of Democrats kind of flailing in front of a microphone and making speeches about how we have to resist, which, I guess that's all they've got on the table in front of them now as a tool at their disposal. But it's precisely, again, because Biden wasn't held to account to actually start doing the kind of infrastructural building of resistance mechanisms when he had the power to do so, and instead saying norms and customs were going to save the day. We knew who Donald Trump was, and for Democrats to be talking out of one side of their mouth, saying that he was an existential threat and he was a fascist all this time, and then not behaving in that way when they had the power to do something about it, is again why we feel so neutered and impotent in this moment.
Those Republicans are bowing down to Mr. Trump. I was just reading last night that there are now bills introduced to add his face to Mount Rushmore. They've introduced bills to change the name of Dulles Airport in Virginia, right outside of D.C., to Donald Trump Airport. So the fix is in. I was also thinking last night and again this morning, which I want to take get Brianna's read on. I was thinking this morning about the conversation we were having during Trump 1.0, where the message was, the mandate was, don't normalize this guy. We cannot normalize this guy. You see where I'm going? I want to talk about that conversation then and situate it right now, this notion of normalizing Donald Trump. Our guest is Brianna Joy Gray, glad to have Gray and glad. Brianna Joy Gray, glad to have her right now on Tavis Smiley.
Generous listening. Charitable listening. It's why everybody wants to talk to Tavis. The conversation continues when we come forward.
Texting privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at textplan.us. Texting enrolls for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stopped, opt out. Individual results may vary. Consult a doctor prior to use.
You've lost so much weight. How'd you do it?
I got medical treatment for weight loss through Zelty and lost 50 pounds. I struggled for the longest time, but Zelty makes it easy and affordable to get weight loss treatment 100% online. Zelty providers can prescribe FDA-approved weight loss medications clinically shown to help people lose weight, like Wegovy, Zepbound, and others.
I've heard those medications can help you lose weight, but aren't they expensive?
Zelty can help get the medication covered by insurance, so it's as little as $0 a month.
What if you don't have insurance?
No problem. Zelty may be able to help you get other GLP-1 medications for 80 to 90% off the price of name brand medications.
I'm ready to start losing weight. How do I get started with Zelty?
Just text.
Text SUNNY to 200-300 to get started today with Zelty and see if weight loss medications like Wegovy and Zepbound are right for you. Don't wait. Text now for a link to your exclusive offer. Text SUNNY to 200-300. That's SUNNY to 200-300. SUNNY to 200-300.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The Los Angeles Regional Food Bank is on a mission to fight hunger and provide nutritious food to those in need across our community. They partner with federal, state, and local programs advocating for better policies and funding for critical hunger relief programs like Cal Fresh, the Emergency Food Assistance Program, and the Child and Adult Care Food Program. The food bank works with coalitions and local representatives to make sure hunger is addressed in every district of LA County. They also run nutrition education campaigns, raise hunger awareness, and source nutritious food for distribution, all while supporting regulations that allow food pantries to operate safely. Want to help? Visit lafoodbank.org or call 323-234-3030 to volunteer or find a food bank near you. Together, we can ensure that no one goes hungry in Los Angeles County. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
What you want to do, huh?
KBLA Talk 1580 is thrilled to share that we have been named as a semifinalist for the coveted American Climate Leadership Awards, honoring our climate work last year. We're also delighted to announce year 2 of our Climate Justice Crusade. This year's $2 million 12-month campaign will link and combat the relationship between climate change and poor health outcomes for African Americans and the poor. Climate inequities have taken a toll with multiple health triggers in the Black community, such as extreme heat and poor air quality, made worse by the recent wildfires. Our work to ensure climate justice and climate equity continues. In the coming weeks and months, you'll be hearing a lot more about our 2025 climate campaign. To learn more about our plans for this year and the companies and organizations supporting us, log on to our website at kbla1580.com. Caring about the climate, caring about the community, changing the conversation. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black. Made fresh daily in Leimert Park, Los Angeles, California. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley, the host of the Bad Faith Podcast, Brianna Joy Gray. I don't need to color this much more for her, but you do recall that conversation back in the day, Trump 1.0, Brianna. about us not normalizing Donald Trump. How do you see that conversation in this present moment?
You've got dozens of Democrats voting for his nominee, Marco Rubio, passing unanimously.
Mm-hmm.
You have these photos through the windows of the White House of Chuck Schumer and Donald Trump, hugging. It's absurd. You see the entire corporate community that offered some sort of resistance to Donald Trump, saying they weren't going to advertise, on conservative media, they weren't going to, do all these kinds of things, now simply falling in line. There is no incentive for those kinds of financial institutions to keep any kind of arm's length distance with Donald Trump. And politically, again, locked into the two-party system, what is there to do about the fact that the Democratic Party has demonstrated a lack of sincerity about their commitment to resistance? When you look at these two parties that largely share the same donor base, what can you possibly expect? You hear so many Democrats, including some, I think, legitimate voices that are left aligned, talking about the fact that we have billionaires controlling our democracy, Elon Musk and Bill Ackerman and this whole largely Zionist cohort who have Donald Trump's ear. But how much credibility does the Democratic Party have when in 2020 they chose the candidate that had the most billionaire donations among a crowded field, and again in 2024 ignored that Joe Biden had more billionaire donors than Donald Trump? So they now stand on the pulpit and make very legitimate, accurate claims about the extent to which we do not live in a democracy, but fail to make those same charges when it was a Democrat at the head of our oligarchy. And they wonder why so many people, 15 million voters, in fact, decided to stay home in this election, and that's what caused Donald Trump to win. Not that Donald Trump overperformed, but that people who once came out and voted for a Democratic candidate in 2020 declined to do so because they felt like the system wasn't serving them, and frankly, they were right. Now, you can say that was stupid, and now that you get what you deserve with Donald Trump being president, but this was all very predictable, and the leaders of our resistance, our political resistance in the Democratic Party, it was their obligation, their responsibility. Kamala Harris raised $1 billion in a period of like a month, 6 weeks, to mobilize those people and give people a reason to come out. And we just had this DNC chair election last weekend, which was an opportunity to get a sense if the Democratic Party had any introspection, any sense of accountability for their propping up of Joe Biden as a candidate about whom there was questions about his mental and cognitive fitness for years, stretching back to before the 2020 race. They had an opportunity to see if there was any accountability for their unwillingness to take account of the fact that polls back in 2022 showed that a majority of Democratic voters didn't want him to be president. They had an opportunity to say, is there any accountability for the fact that internal Democratic polls in the summer of 2024 showed that Biden was going to lose to Trump by 400 electoral votes? And what they have repeatedly said, Ken Martin, who was elected the new DNC chair, has repeatedly said, and reportedly said in a New York Times article just a couple of days ago, that he was willing to do an accounting of what happened, but he would not be looking backward and would not be answering questions about Joe Biden's fitness.
It's the same old, same old. I see your point. They had a chance to do something different, unusual, progressive, and you get Ken Martin. I digress. Our remaining moments with Brianna Joy Gray when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Why does Tavis say when we come forward? Because he's not going back. And you don't have to go back either. Forward ever, backward never. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
You know where you want to go in life, and City National Bank can help. City National knows the dedication it takes to build your vision for the future into a reality, and our team is here for you. We have a wide range of options to help, from personal savings accounts to interest-bearing money market savings accounts and more. All designed to help you get where you want to go. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Learn more at cnb.com. City National Bank is a subsidiary of Royal Bank of Canada. Member FDIC.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you that we keep us safe. Every girl deserves a chance to shine. That's the belief behind Forgiving for Living, Inc. Since 1999, this organization has been empowering at-risk girls ages 13 to 18, helping them overcome behavioral and mental health challenges. Founder Wendy Gladney's personal journey inspired the mission to give girls hope and purpose through the power of forgiveness. Through their ambassador program, workshops, and annual conference, Forgiving for Living has touched over 3,000 young lives, providing mentoring, life skills, training, and tools for building self-esteem and confidence. You can make a difference. Visit forgivingforliving.org to donate, volunteer, become a mentor, or find help for a young girl in need. Forgiving for Living, Inc., building brighter futures for young girls. Visit forgivingforliving.org today. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Let's get back to more of this rich dialogue with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Brianna Joy Gray. She's the rich part of this dialogue. I love her inconvenient truths, but truths we need to wrestle with nonetheless. This would be an appropriate way, Brianna Joy, to end this conversation with 2 minutes to go. We were talking earlier about the media. We played that clip of Steve Bannon telling you on PBS how they were going to run this play. There is more breaking news at this moment. So during Trump 1.0, you'll recall Ivanka and Jared were inside the White House. Fox News has just announced that Laura Trump will be hosting her new show called, this would be laughable if it weren't so serious, called My View with Laura Trump. My View with Laura Trump. Laura's the one married to his son, Eric. The show will focus on the return of common sense to all corners of American life. So I'll give Brianna Joy Gray the last word. But again, last time it was Ivanka and Jared on the inside. Now you've got Laura Trump hosting the show on Fox News. I wonder if she can get an exclusive with the president. Last word to you, Brianna Joy Gray.
Yeah, look, it's horrible, right? It's corrupt. It's nepotism. It's all of those things. And I hear myself. I know that there's a resistance to me sounding like I have to tie everything back to a criticism of Democrats. But what I want is for there to be a credible criticism of Republicans and everyone when this sort of thing happens. And so, yeah, this is disgusting. And it is also a moment for us to interrogate why there is so much right-wing hate of liberal media institutions when the press secretary, Jen Psaki, ends up leaving the White House and getting her own primetime show on MSNBC. Mm-hmm. When Kamala Harris's press secretary, Simone Sanders, ends up having the same thing happen to her. When George Bush's former press secretary, Nicole Wallace, a conservative, gets a primetime spot on MSNBC as a never-Trump Republican. Why is it that this revolving door exists regardless of your political affiliations, and what harm does that do to the fourth estate and our ability to resist the kind of fascism and despotism that we're experiencing now in America?
The condition of truth. The condition of truth, someone once said, is to allow suffering to speak. And every time I hear Brianna Joy Gray speak those inconvenient and uncomfortable truths, I hear the suffering being allowed to speak, the suffering being allowed to be heard. And for that, we thank her. Brianna Joy Gray, good to have you on. We'll do it again. All the best to you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
So do I. When we come forward, today would have been Trayvon Martin's 30th birthday. We will talk to his mother, Sabrina Fulton, on Tavis Smiley.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 things you should know with BIN News. The Army set a December recruiting record with nearly 350 signups daily, the highest in 15 years. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth credited the surge to youth wanting to serve under President Trump's America First leadership.